A couple spent 5 years living aboard a 40-foot boat. They ran the Great Loop, the big lap around eastern North America. Not once, but almost twice. They knew that boat inside out. They loved it. And then they sold it for something you can tow behind a pickup truck. Here's the part that doesn't add up. When people ask them why, they didn't lead with the money or the work they'd escaped. They said the small boat gave them more freedom. Not less, more. That's supposed to be a downgrade, isn't it? And Jim and Lisa Favors are far from the only ones. All over the country, experienced owners, people who spent decades working their way up to bigger and bigger boats, are quietly turning around and going small. The industry even has a name for it. They call it rightsizing. And once you see the number sitting underneath it, the whole thing clicks. At the end of 2024, the research firm InfoLink told the National Marine Manufacturers Association that the median age of an American boat owner had climbed to 60. 60. And then there's the line that stops you cold. There are now more boat owners in their 70s than in their 40s. Think about what that means. A whole generation that bought the big cruiser, the flybridge, the twin diesels, is getting older. And the boat that made sense at 55 doesn't always make sense at 70. So the question quietly changes. It stops being, how big a boat can I afford? And it becomes, how much boat do I actually want to take care of? Talk to the people who made the jump, and the same reasons come up again and again. The first one is the thing nobody tells you when you're signing for the big boat. The big boat becomes a job. John Kendall had a Grand Banks 36, a proper classic trawler, the kind people dream about. But with a family of 4, he watched that boat slowly eat the very time he'd bought it to enjoy. Every season, more projects, more maintenance, less actual cruising. So he went smaller, then smaller again, and he'll tell you the little boat left him, his words, so much more relaxed. There's another man in this story, 61 years old, who sold a 36-foot Albin trawler because it had become, and I love this phrase, a constant work in progress. He was done with projects. He wanted something simple, basic, and still comfortable. So he bought a brand new 25-foot pilot houseboat for around $80,000 and never looked back. But maintenance is only half of it, because there's a second thing that creeps up on every single boater, and no amount of money fixes it. Age. It's not something people love to say out loud, so listen to how honestly they put it. One owner wrote that his agility and his strength had both been, quote, compromised by time. His 28-foot boat had turned into more effort than fun, so he dropped down to a 23 he could handle on his own, and called it the best thing he could have done. And here's the twist. It's often not even the captain who makes the call. On one owner's forum, a guy explained why he and his wife traded a 29-foot Sea Ray for a little Ranger tug. The reason? His wife looked at the bigger boat and thought, as we age, what happens the day I have to bring this thing into the dock by myself? She didn't believe she could. That fear, that one quiet fear, is behind more of these decisions than any brochure will ever admit. Now, the third reason is the one that hits the wallet, and it's bigger than just fuel. When Jim and Lisa Favors, remember our couple, moved to a trailerable boat, they didn't only cut their maintenance, they could hitch the boat to a truck and drive it. Michigan in the summer, Florida in the winter, the Tennessee River, the Canadian canals, reservoirs out west, all without paying for months of dockage or renting a place to stay down south. The boat became the trip, and the RV rolled into one. And the running costs? There's a 70-year-old former commercial fisherman named Jose Huneo, living aboard a small trawler full-time. He says it sips just over a gallon of fuel an hour at an easy cruise. His old speedboat, he'll tell you, could drink 200 gallons in a single weekend. Same water, wildly different life. Now, I'm not going to sell you on a fairy tale, because this audience knows better than that. Going small costs you something real. When the Favourises stepped down to their smallest tug, look at what actually changed. Fuel capacity, cut by roughly a third. Fresh water, down. The waste tank went from 40 gallons to 14. The whole boat dropped from 10,500 pounds to 6,500. That is not nothing. They ended up fitting a composting toilet just to make the numbers work. And other owners are blunt about the rest of it. A smaller boat, they'll warn you, can double the number of days you look at the water, shake your head, and decide not to go out. You lose room for guests. You lose comfort when it turns lumpy. One fellow out there, living the dream on his own little trawler, was asked what he misses most. His answer? A washer and dryer. So no, smaller isn't automatically better. But for the right person, at the right stage of life, every one of those trade-offs is a price they are happy to pay. Which brings us to the real question. If you were going to do this, sell the big boat, go small, but still have something you could genuinely cruise and even live on, what boat would you actually pick? Because watch what jumps out of every one of these stories. Different people, different coasts, different boats they started on. And the same name keeps surfacing. The Ranger Tug. There's a reason it keeps winning these folks over. It's built to be towed, legally, straight down the highway. It's got a real cabin, a proper berth, an enclosed head, a galley, not some glorified day boat. And you're never out there alone with it. The Ranger owners community has grown past 9,000 members, all swapping routes and advice and fixes. The sweet spot is the 27-footer. When this research was done, there were 71 of them for sale across the country. Used boats starting around $112,000. New ones pushing $260,000. And these are not Marina Queens. Among the boats that have actually finished the entire Great Loop, that whole run around the country, the Ranger Tug placed tied for third most popular in a recent year. A boat you can tow with a truck, going toe-to-toe with vessels twice its size. And our couple, Jim and Lisa, they eventually went even smaller, down to a Ranger 25 on purpose, because as they aged, the easier towing and the lighter upkeep mattered more than the extra space. The boat that started this whole story is the boat the evidence keeps circling back to. It isn't the only answer, though. And the honest truth is that plenty of people right-size without going anywhere near that small. John Candell, our Grand Banks guy, landed on a North Pacific 28, a compact pilot house trawler that reviewers say fits first-time buyers and downsizers alike, with a helm laid out so one person can dock it. Others go for a Cutwater 30, which gives up the easy trailering, but keeps the room and the feel of a much bigger boat. And the traditionalists chase the Nordic Tug 26, older, salty, and still respected by serious cruisers. But if you want the one boat that shows up the most, backed by the most owners, and the most real-world miles, it's that little Ranger. And when you step back, you realize the whole thing was never really about the boat getting smaller. These people don't shrink their dream, they cut away everything that wasn't the dream. The maintenance lists, the fuel bills, the fear of docking, the slip they were chained to. And what's left is the part they wanted all along. Coffee on the water at sunrise, a truck in the driveway, and the whole country's worth of coastline out in front of them. No mortgage, no crew, no permission needed. The median boat owner in this country is 60 years old, and the sharpest ones have figured out something the rest of us are still learning. The best boat isn't the biggest one you can buy. It's the one that lets you keep going. So I'll hand it to you. If it were your call, Team Tiny Trailerable Trawler, or would you hold on to the big boat till they pried you off of it? Tell me down in the comments. I read them. And if this is the kind of boating story you want more of, you already know what to do.